Welcome, friends, to another exciting episode of A VGM Journey. And I'm your host, The Messenger. The track that we're playing into today's show is Not All There from the game Viewpoint, and it was composed by Sizlla Okamura. Got a real fun show for you guys, filled with some pretty random games, including something from one of the most controversial games of all time, which I'm going to start it off with that. So our next track's going to be Map Theme from Postal 2, and it was composed by Christian Salyer. That track that you just listened to, that was the Map Theme from Postal 2, and it was composed by Christian Salyer. I really dig this track. I think it's pretty cool, though I mainly like it just for the context of it, where it's just this map theme for a game that you might think sounds like it could be pretty peaceful sounding, even though the title is Postal 2, and you play as the postal dude who, well, goes postal. And you're tasked with pretty mundane things day to day, like go to the store to get milk or go pick up your paycheck. And you can't choose to just stick to doing the task, but what keeps happening is just a whole lot of crazy. Like, for an example, you go pick up your paycheck from this video game developer, and outside of the building, there are protesters who are protesting against violent video games. So you pick up the paycheck, and the protesters start storming the place, just all guns blazing. And though you could somehow be a pacifist and just try to avoid the gunfire, I think more than likely you will be defending yourself and shooting back at these protesters. And there are a lot of moment-to-moment stuff where, I gotta say, and pardon my language, but things are really fucked up. And though I find the game to be pretty fun, it's a little bit of a tough recommendation, just because of the violent nature, and also there's a lot of really offensive, stereotypical humor in it. So if you are just a little bit curious about Postal 2, I just want to give you a heads up that you might be hearing and seeing things that might kind of rub you off in the wrong way. I say let's move on to our next track, and this is from a game that I highly recommend, and that it's coming from Donkey Kong Bonanza. The track is Challenge Course 2, and it was composed by Naoto Kubo. That track that you just heard, that was Challenge Course 2 from the game Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it was composed by Naoto Kubo. Donkey Kong Bonanza has been a blast, and the soundtrack for it, I gotta say, it's pretty good, especially the Challenge Course themes. And I've always been a sucker for a really good bass line, and Challenge Course 2 really brings it. Which is really good because these challenge rooms, they can be a bit of a tricky task to complete. And I'm not sure if specific challenge course songs are associated with specific challenges, but I've always associated this one with the more puzzle themed rooms where it's not really much about the action and it's just about how you got to figure out how to solve whatever puzzle. And one of my favorites is one where you have to clear snow to let these little ice cubes flow down a hill, and you gotta like get them into these little buckets to catch them. I don't know, I find physics puzzles to be pretty fun, and it really helps to have a really cool track like this playing. And now I'm thinking you guys want a little more action, a little more excitement. So I decided to bring a classic track from a classic game next, and that will be the battle theme from Final Fantasy, and it was composed by Nobuo Uematsu. The track that you just heard, that was Battle Theme from Final Fantasy, and it was composed by Nobuo Uematsu. I've recently dabbled into the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster collection, and so far I've only played the first game, and I'm not super far into it, only like a couple hours in. But I gotta say, it's a fun game, and I've been playing with the original soundtrack. Though I will say that the remastered soundtrack, it is really good. I was just thinking, since this is the first time that I'm playing it, maybe I should just listen to the original and just kind of experience it through that. And you play as these characters that are referred to as the Warriors of Light, who are tasked with bringing light back into the world. And the thing that I find really cool is that you're able to name all these characters and also pick what class they play as. And though I'm not much of an RPG guy, I gotta say that the game itself is pretty fun, and the soundtrack is also really good too. Though I will say that the soundtracks for the Final Fantasy games, they get better as the series goes on, but it's still a damn good start for the series. I think we're going to move on to another RPG track, this time coming from Wild Arms. The track is Knight's Quarters, and this was composed by Michiko Naruke. That track that you just heard, that was Knight's Quarters from the game Wild Arms, and it was composed by Michiko Naruke. And that's going to just about do it for the show today. If you like what you've been listening to, have your friends check out the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify maybe, YouTube, and also TerraPlayer, the home of various different video game and video game music podcasts. You can email the show at vgmjourney@yahoo.com, and you could also check us out at X and Blue Sky at VGM Journey. We also have a Discord server for the show, which I'll provide a link for that in the show notes, where you could hang out with your fellow VGM journeymen and talk about games, music, and even look at some cool art. We're also going to play things out with one more track, and this is a banger. The track is Get Enough from the game Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, and it was composed by Hideki Naganuma. Have a good one, everyone. Just get enough. Just get